Well, it's a very good thing that you also is very steeped in terms of parliamentary proceedings, having been Speaker of the Kwara State House of Assembly for a while. You did talk about how, you know, the responsibilities and how the levels of responsibility that a lawmaker has to the constitution of the country, to the constituents, and of course, I believe the party.
Yeah.
I think this was the order in which you placed them, right?
Well, first, your primary duty is to the nation, having sworn to uphold the Constitution. Then thereafter, your duty is to the Parliament, because Parliament is sovereign. And then thereafter, your duty is to your constituents, because they voted for you. And then thereafter, your duty is to your party, in that order.
Okay, so there are 4 different roles that you're identifying for a lawmaker.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, these roles are usually never conflicting, because one would believe that the party would also want what's best for your constituents who voted for you on the platform of their party, and would also want what's best for Parliament, and would also want what's best for the country.
Indeed. But it's a classic, conundrum which faces every lawmaker, but it's something where even students of government and politics are made to grapple with.
What I'm saying is that oftentimes these roles hardly conflict and become in conflict with themselves. Do they conflict sometimes?
Precisely, which is why I say it's a conundrum. They shouldn't conflict, but you can envisage situations where they do conflict sometimes. So how best to resolve it? It depends on the context of the situation and the conscience of the parliamentarian. Indeed, in the English Parliament, they often add that the duty of the MP, of the Member of Parliament, also a duty to his conscience. Because when he was voted in because of his integrity and track record and all the rest of it. Therefore, he must also follow his conscience. So these are classic political conundrums that an MP has to face. But by and large, as you say, they simply do not conflict, because if you're sworn to uphold the Constitution, the party also believes in the Constitution, because that's the rule by which all of us play. The Parliament obviously follows the Constitution doggedly, and therefore there shouldn't be any conflict whatsoever.
The reason why I've asked this question is because if you're to trace the genesis of this crisis and, you know, the hue and cry that's gone on about the independence of Parliament, the first question will be, how is it that all of this, you know, these roles began to conflict with themselves in this particular scenario?
Well, I don't see it as a conflict arising in this particular scenario, as you say. What I see happening is that we all want the best for the country, and we all want this country to move forward, and we certainly all want President Muhammadu Buhari to deliver on his campaign promises, and we all certainly want to assist him in achieving his set goals, aims, objectives, and agenda. However, how we go about it is how we differ. Whereas some people believe that you can dictate to Parliament by putting pen to paper, most of us believe that Parliament must be independent and must be seen to be independent, and therefore, because Parliament is sovereign and supreme, Parliament should take its own decisions. So there's not a conflict of purpose, there's a conflict of means.
Well, you say that the matter is largely resolved, but now that that report where we did play before you came on was talking about 2 members of your party in the Southwest going to court, does that throw spanner in the works? What happens if upon resumption the Speaker is served? Can proceedings still go on the floor of the House?
Not at all. Let me make 1 or 2 things clear. First, as I say, anyone is free to approach the court. Certainly, we believe they're in the minority. Even amongst their camp, you'll recall that there was a press release or a full-page advertisement taken dissociating themselves from that matter that they took to court. So amongst that camp, there's a breakaway faction that has now said, look, Speaker Dogara has taken a middle course. He's taken a sensible approach. is being conciliatory and is done what is required of him, A, as a loyal party member, and B, as a man who's sworn to uphold the sovereignty of Parliament through the Constitution. He's struck a middle ground and is given what should be given. And therefore, anyone going to court now will simply be partaking in mischief of sorts. So I don't see that there will be any impediment to the House resuming on the 28th, and I don't see any impediment in the House constituting, as it should do, the principal officers. The rules do not give a blanket prohibition because a matter is in court. What the rules say is that if a matter is in court, a reference should not be made to that matter in such a way as to prejudice the outcome of that matter in court. And if we proceed along the lines that we intend to proceed, then I'm sure the entire country will see that we've done what is required of us as a parliament, and then we can move on to business of the day. That is not to say that we've stopped performing our duties as members of parliament. Let me just quickly chip in that just yesterday, Speaker Dogara constituted a law reform committee of which I am a member to look into all existing federal laws and to make proposals for amendments, repeals and consolidation, or indeed codification of such laws. So we are getting on with the serious business of Parliament for which we are elected here to do.
All right, I'm afraid that's all we'll have to anchor. Thank you very much indeed for talking to us today, Honorable Razak Atunwa.
Thank you.